Okay, recording. It is recording. Okay, good. So let me share my screen. So my screen will be shared so I can go over what we're going to be doing for the rest of the week. All right, so just this week we're continuing with our feature story writing introduction. You do have the feature story review due tonight. I just choose one article and answer those questions with it, okay? And so I think I changed that on one thing and didn't change it on another. And I used to have people do two, but I want you to do one really well, okay? And then we're gonna do another one in class from that, but we do the other one in class. So I'd only want you to do one from home. Today, we're gonna look at how you tell the story of a feature story and really get to the theme of it and looking at it as a craft that can be compared to coming up with a plot for a movie or a book or something like that, and then finding that angle and narrowing down. So we're going to help you today in class find an angle, find a topic. If you don't have a really strong idea yet, hopefully some of the activities we do today in class will help you. There is a reading here listed from Pointer that says what makes a good story. I recommend that you read this. It's a short article that that kind of goes over what makes a good story for feature stories, lesson for all public writers. So consider this kind of like your textbook reading for this. It'll help, you know, maybe give some clarity that I don't always provide, that I can't get to in class, but it gives like, I think like 10, 12, 13. So it gives 13 like points to telling a good story. And so we're going to hit on some of these things today, but this is just really good follow-up information for that as well. So make sure that you read that this week. And then the other things that I'm going to ask you to do this week after today, just consider Wednesday. I want you to start drafting some interview questions and thinking of people that you may interview for this story. This story is going to be a process. This is the one that we take a lot of time on and break down and do in steps. And so I'll be walking you through each step. So try to pace yourself with the timelines that I give you. So for this week, we're focusing on finding your topic and then thinking about questions that will help you interview. You don't even have to have the person chosen yet or the people chosen yet. If you do, that's great. Then you can tailor those questions specifically for that. But if you have some ideas of something that you are planning on writing about and some ideas of people that you want to interview, we're going to think about the questions that you're going to be wanting to get answered from whoever you choose to be interviewed. It's easy if you're doing a profile on someone, you know, you're going to interview that person, but then you're going to interview some other people as well. And then Friday, if you remember in the syllabus down below, I'll scroll down here. One of the, where does it go? Two of the, well, maybe I have it on the other thing up top. Well, anyway, down below, you are going to have to create or do two courses from something called News U, and it's really Pointer's News U. They renamed it recently. And I'm going to go ahead. You have two of those due by December 3rd, but since we're not going to be in class on Friday, I'm going to go ahead and break those up and have you do one of them today, or not today, this week. And so what you do with Pointer, if you do scroll down here, I will, I'll copy this and put it up here so you have the link there too. What just happened there? Okay, here we go. So for Pointer News, did I spell that right? No, I did not. Use classes. If you click on here, it's going to walk you through how to do it. There's tons of these free classes that help you craft skills for news writing that you may want to look at. And so I've asked you to complete 2 for this class. These are really great, and it's just a good resource to know about, because going forward, you may be interested in continuing learning about certain things, or maybe you want to brush up on a certain skill set. There are a lot of paid courses, and then there's a lot that get sponsored and are offered free to anyone who creates an account. And so I've walked you through how to create an account, and then how to look for certain courses. And so if you click on these links, they still should be correct. Broadcast and visual journalism. So those right there, you can see there's tons of them that are free, but you can also just go to pointer.org, and you can go to training and click on News U. And then you create a profile like you would for anything else. And then here you get to search courses on whatever topic you want to. You can search them on, and see, these right here are ones you have to pay for. And these are, because they know I'm a teacher, they give me a lot of teacher suggestions. But then you can also look for different topics. Let me see the search button. They've changed it down here. Getting started. If you click on here, you create a topic, enroll in a course, click here. How do you enroll? It walks you through everything. It tells you how to find and search one. But there really are a lot of really good courses that just help you. Self-directed courses are the ones you probably want. Sometimes they have a recorded webinar that you can watch. And all I need you to do is screenshot the last screen that shows that you've completed it, okay? And so some of them are related to news writing or feature story writing, finding a story. A lot of them you have some on AP editing. So if you're interested in that, I'm leaving it up to you to choose whatever course you want. But let me make sure I show you where to find the search for them. For some reason, they used to have it where you could find topics right here, but now they've made it harder to find, of course. News view courses. Okay, so self-directed courses, and you see that there's free, avoiding plagiarism, fabrication, beyond the inverted pyramid, creating alternative story forms. So once you master the inverted pyramid, here's one that kind of tells you how to go further in that. Cleaning up your copy, grammar, style. If you feel like your grammar, your style, your AP style is something that you struggle with, that would be a good one to do. So only do the ones, of course, that are free. Ethics of journalism, if you're interested in looking more about the ethics. So just pick one there. And then as you register for it, the last screen just gives you a completed, and you just need to screenshot that. All right. Any questions about that? I'll be able to answer emails. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But if you click around enough, you'll be able to figure it out. So here's that sheet that tells you what to do. So just consider that class on Friday. All right, thumbs up. Got it. Okay. So today we're going to jump into storytelling, and then we're going to do kind of some brainstorming activities to see about topic selections for you and telling stories in a feature story fashion. So I'm going to leave it without going full screen, because with Zoom it makes it harder. So ignore all the notes and all that fun stuff. So we talked about the difference between a feature story and a news story. The news story gets straight to the 5 W's and H's, or the H, the how, and it's really headline worthy. It's attention getting. It's like what's going on today or yesterday. It's that hard news, and it's really time sensitive. Now, a feature story can be time sensitive, but it also can be something that you may take longer to work on. That's not necessarily just what happened yesterday, but it's something that's broader. It's something that is more universal. And so you may take a deeper idea or a theme and then work on it and tell the story. And it doesn't necessarily matter that it's the day after that you heard this information. And so that's a little bit of the of how we're switching gears. We're looking into something that's a little bit more long-term than just a hard news story. When you think of a feature story, I like to think of it as something that is touching on a universal theme. And so you've all taken English classes, you've all taken literature classes, you've all had to learn what themes are. And these really can be translated or related to what we're doing in this unit, because when you're writing someone's real story, you're looking at a theme that's happening in real life. Okay. And so, you can write the book To Kill a Mockingbird, and it's not necessarily a true story, but it kind of depicts something that could be a true story. And so what we're doing is we're telling these stories that are human interest enough to where someone would want to make a movie about them, or someone would want to write a book about them. And so universal themes that you can think about are ones that are appealing to a really wide spectrum of readers, a wide audience, things that people are interested in. Love endures, love conquers all. That's a big one. If you see the power of love in something, that's something that grabs people's hearts. All you need is love, beauty of simplicity. Sometimes the theme of life is we make things a lot more complex, and we're looking at a story that shows, sometimes it's taking a second and looking at life a little bit more simply and time. Think about the pandemic mom story we looked at. At the end, the kind of tie back was, we have all this craziness going on. It's hard, but then sometimes you have to just take a moment, take a breath, and be excited that your child brought you flowers or something like that. Beauty of simplicity. The Circle of Life, we think about Lion King, The Circle of Life, the song, but this one is, it kind of shows stuff that that follows follows nature, follows, time going on, people moving on, that type of thing. You can always make a story about darkness versus light, good versus evil. It's a little bit tricky though in feature stories, because we are trying to be objective in these still. We don't want to villainize people necessarily. But good versus evil, evil sometimes can be a sickness or an injury. So maybe you think of someone who overcame a disease or overcame an injury and overcame that. We do like to villainize different groups of people just as humans. That's what we do. We have the good guys and the bad guys. You have the cops and the robbers. You have this, but there's always those stories on the other side of the fence that you don't necessarily tell. Why did that robber become a robber? That in itself is a story. The idea that there's no bad humans, there's just bad choices, is a theme that you can look at as well when you're kind of looking at good versus evil. The idea people aren't born evil, they just make bad choices. And so you can get into that. Going on with evils, the evils of discrimination. Look at To Kill a Mockingbird for an example. That is the evils of discrimination, a life in Jim Crow era South of the US. And so there's tons of discrimination stories that are out there. It's a very hot topic, not necessarily just dealing with racism, but dealing with sexism, dealing with the discrimination of people's identity choices, discrimination of people's shoe choices. I don't know. Everybody likes to discriminate over everything. And so you can definitely follow tons of stories that you can see about that. Stories about faith and doubt, how sometimes people's faith brought them through something. or sometimes the idea that having doubts is healthy because it makes you think. So those are different types of universal themes. Greed as a downfall. Anybody ever seen Wolf of Wall Street? It's a true story. Probably somebody wrote a little article to get that thing started to tell it. And then they're like, ooh, this would be a good book. And then it became a movie. And then it became another movie. Greed is a downfall. Individual versus society. You know, all those themes that you hear about when you were learning in English. Does anybody remember those? Individual versus society, individual versus individual, individual versus nature. What list those things, you know, all those different types of things. Loss is a good theme to think about. Love and sacrifice. Sometimes you read a lot about a parent sacrifice for their children, working 3 jobs, making sure their child had what they needed to be able to be the first person in their generation to go to, or first person in their family to go to college. You know, you hear a lot about those. I actually wrote an article about that when I was in grad school. I went to Baylor out in Texas, and there's a lot of Hispanic immigrants that lived there. And I worked for a nonprofit when I was in grad school that did education for students who were potential first generation college students for their family. And so I did some follow-up information and worked with the, they call it GT there, like the gifted and talented. What do we call it here now? Like AG, it used to be academically gifted, whatever they call it. But I worked with teachers that were trying to bring students that would not necessarily have been recognized as gifted and talented because they came in not speaking English, and what they do to, you know, get kids, identify students early who can possibly be college bound, be in the college bound college readiness programs at a younger age that might have been looked over because they were first generation Americans and English as a second language students. And so we did a lot of work with them. So a lot of sacrifice was made to get those students where they were. Patriotism, freedom, justice, need for change, the road not taken. Sometimes those are, somebody maybe beats a drum to their own beat or takes a different path than normal. And that sometimes makes for a really interesting story. Somebody goes around a different way. Maybe there's a college student here who's in their 40s and they, you know, they got married, had a family early, but then they wanted to go back and finish their degree. That's not necessarily the most straightforward path that most college students take. Most people here came out of high school, go straight into college, but we have a whole lot of people that are coming back and finishing their degree. Our online in our degree completion program is booming now. And that's where we have so many students enrolling who are my age or older and are wanting to come back and finish their degree. So it's maybe a different thing. That would be a really good story. Power of peace, and then the power of revenge and hate. So these are just a bunch of universal themes. I mean, there's tons more out there, but these are ones that I kind of collected to think, well, you know, if you could find something that kind of grabs one of these themes, then you're going to make a good story. So have these in mind when you're thinking, and have this at the top of your organization. What can you do to tell this theme? You're not just telling someone's story, you know, about what they did today or what they did yesterday, but you're really working toward making it say something about humanity. And that's at the essence what writing about this is. It's not just an assignment in class. This is, people make their living doing this because they love telling people stories. And maybe you're one who likes telling people stories or likes learning about people's stories, and this could be something that you would be really interested in. Maybe it's something you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's just a good exercise in telling people stories. So try to think of something that interests you that would interest others. So 5 questions to help your focus. Think, why does this story matter? What's the point? Like, don't just pick something that, just to get a topic. Think of something that really matters. Think of something that has a good point. Why is it being told? Why now? Like I said, this doesn't have to be something that happened yesterday and you're getting that story out real quick, but why is this an important story to be told right now? Why would you care about someone who sacrificed something to get their child into college? Why is that important now? A lot of those are pretty, self-explained answers. Like all those things, it's always important to know about people's sacrifice. It's always important. But you think about cultural things that are happening like in the world right now. Maybe you do something related in a way to the pandemic and how mental health has been an issue with students. One of the things that the university studies is retention rates for students and what makes people not come back to school or transfer. And one of the biggest things noted over the past 2 years for students who don't re-enroll for the next year or withdraw is mental health. And so what do we do with that? We're all struggling with the idea of having lived through a pandemic that none of us ever really thought we would have to live through, and our lives were thrown up in the air. And so telling a story about the mental health of college students is really relevant right now. I saw something on the news this morning that kind of piqued my interest a little bit because it has a lot to do with the research that I did in grad school. But there was a new big research study out that shows that Instagram is mentally damaging for teenage girls. Has anybody seen that research? It's making news right now. And so there's this whole movement that kind of wants to educate about the dangers of letting teenage girls on Instagram. And it has to do with body image, which is what I did my graduate study research on, is media and body image. And this just kind of goes right in there with it. Self-esteem and bullying. And so you've talked about social media and bullying for years, and texting and bullying for years, but this one is looking specifically on how the Instagram culture of perceived perfection really takes the concept of what mental development of a teenage girl goes through. Not that it doesn't affect boys either, but this is specifically looking at teenage girls. So I thought that was really interesting. I did my graduate research on body image and in the media with college age women. So you could take something like that and look at how does Instagram affect college age women? What ideals are you held to? Is it that controlling of people's ideas? Do you know anyone who's so controlled by their Instagram image? Anybody know anybody like that? I mean, I think that it can grab onto people, but anyway, it's a story to tell. What does the story say about life, the world, and the time in which we live? And then what is the story about in one word? Can you think of it? Can you think about that story in one word? So some of these why does it matter type things on a college campus, research says that these are some of the most talked about topics for college age students. Mental illness, like I said, eating disorders is still really a strong topic. Stress in the college student, career choices. Anybody here know exactly what they want to do when they grow up? Anybody here know? Anybody here still struggling with that? I'm still struggling. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Work school balance. Anybody here have a job? Anybody here play a sport? Anybody here have a job and play a sport and go to school? There's that balance that really takes a lot on somebody, right? Substance abuse. Anybody know anyone affected by substance abuse of any kind? Yeah. Diversity, social class in college, gender roles, And so there's lots of other things that you can think about when you're trying to think of a topic for a feature style article. We want to think about what matters. So what's the point? What's your story going to say about this issue? You know, like I said, these are supposed to be objective, not subjective. And so you want to stay objective as a writer, but who you choose to interview, how you choose to interview them can say something about something. You can believe that, you know, Instagram is bad for teenage girls. And depending on how and who you interview, you're trying to research and tell that story. You would want to get different sides, different opinions as well, but you're looking at how it affects people by how you're going to cover it. And it depends on what perspective you're using. And if you were doing something about college students and body image, you might want to do the perspective of a student. And you also might want to get the expertise of somebody from the counseling center as well. And then why is the story being told now? Has something happened? Has new research come out? A lot of feature stories happen because someone releases research. So, you know, this new study that just was released, I saw it this morning on the Today Show. They did a story. They didn't do the research, but an independent researcher did the research, and now they're taking that story and having a conversation about it. You can find a lot of research from research institutions like the Pew Institute, PEW. You can also find it through academic journals that study specific causes in academic areas. So that's a really good thing to do. And then what does the story say about life in the world and the time in which we live? Can you connect a big topic locally? So just for instance, this Instagram story, can you connect it to people locally here? Can you look at, do you have a teenage sister? Do you have, you know, can you connect it and turn it over to look at how college students are affected by it, just as much as middle schoolers and high schoolers in this situation. And then you want to look and see, can you tell your story in one word? And this is an activity that I make you do. So, you know, is there something that you can identify? Is it about hate, greed, love, loyalty, any of these types of words that summarize things? So finding subjects that matter. Think about what interests students on campus. Do you know anyone who has overcome a hardship recently? These are kind of, it's easy to think about maybe an athlete who has an injury. I know a student right now who is a cheerleader and, you know, damaged her Achilles tendon really bad. Anybody know Gabby, one of the cheerleaders? She's also one of my husband's music students, and she's out for the whole season. So be interested to follow up and see how she recovers from that. And if she's able to cheer again in the future. That wouldn't be one that would be good to do right now, but thinking about people overcoming a hardship like that. What problems are students facing right now? What successes are students having right now? Brainstorm as much as you can. So what I want you to do right now is you can get out your computer, you can write, and I want you to take about 4 minutes, and I just want you to brainstorm things that you think about that relate to what we've discussed today, or that, and you don't have to stick on the college campus to think about this. If you're involved in something off campus that you're interested in as well. But remember, with this, you're going to have to interview the people. You're going to have to find people to reach out to do the reporting. And so make sure if you pick a big topic, you're able to narrow it down to someone you can have access to be able to research. All right. So think you just brainstorm for a second. Come up with as many ideas as you can. If it helps, just start on thinking about the ideas we've already talked about. All right, so when you have a list of topics, if you don't have to stick with these, if you think of something else later, but I want you to then think about the angle that you would take with one or two of these. So you may have some good ideas down that you're thinking about. And so maybe your topic could be something like video games and violence. You know, that's one that a lot of high schoolers like to write on. And does it cause violence? Does it? And you're trying to answer that question. So what you want to do is you want to think of the angle that you want to take. So we're taking a larger topic and narrowing it down. How will you structure your story? How will you take all this information and structure it into a well-written piece of journalism? And so finding an angle is thinking about your theme and then how it relates to a subject. How can a certain person or a certain group of people or certain people illuminate your theme? And so we're going to look into taking that and then narrowing it down to an angle. So for instance, if the topic that you're looking at is video games and college students, here are some angles that you could cover on it. So one article could be the entertainment value of video games and college students, the benefits of it. Isn't there a video game club on campus where they have gaming? They've had that before. I don't know if they still do it, but they have like gaming nights and anybody in here watch Twitch videos or something like that? Is that a thing still? People make like millions of dollars playing video games online. It's crazy. So anyway, the benefits of it. Another topic that you could look at if you're looking at this is video games can lead to addiction and distraction from school. How this happens, examples of this, what experts say. Maybe somebody had to drop out of school because they came too addicted to video games. Then we're going to take it another direction for another look. How video games create an online community, especially during the pandemic. Maybe people haven't been able to get out as much, but they found an online community in video games. And so we're looking at one topic. We're looking at different articles that could be written about it. Some kind of look things maybe at a negative perspective. Some things look positive perspective. Another topic you could think about, do video games increase the probability of violence in students? A lot of people, when I was in school, when the first like big school shootings happened, like the Columbine one happened when I was in high school, and people kept placing the blame on their students' addictions to video games, among other things. But you can see the blame being shifted sometimes to that. And then kind of leading into that, are video games unfairly blamed for societal problems? Have we not looked at other elements? Is it just one thing? People like to place the blame on one thing. So here are 5 different article topics you can make off of one about one kind of theme. And so each one of these would speak to a different theme. Each one of these would tell a different story. Each one of these would look to research different people. And so when you're thinking about something, maybe you said eating disorders. I want to do eating disorders. Well, from eating disorders, what's your angle going to be? What causes them? How to recover from them? Does stress play a role? Do genetics play a role? Does media play a role? So, you want to narrow down your focus as much as you can, because that's going to make it easier for you, not only to create your questions and interview people, but write a really good article about something that tells a story with a centralized theme. And so think of your topics that you have. Pick 2, pick 1 or 2, and then take a few minutes right now. And I want you to think of angles that you would possibly take with one of your topics. Think of some angles, just like we broke down the video game ones. Maybe you listed it and it's already a specific angle. Think of another angle that you could add to it. So I'll give you 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes to do that. Resume recording. So as you're thinking about your topics for Wednesday, let me see if I change this. On Wednesday class, we will not be doing this. I did not update this. On Wednesday for class. There we go. I want you to research what's been written about your topic. Consider things you would research for your article. I want you to decide who you're going to be researching for your article. And then in class on Wednesday, we were going to work on developing interview questions together, but I'm just going to ask you to do those by yourself. And then post on Shobi. And then for Friday in class, I just want you to make sure that you can get that NewsU course completed. So they take like 30 minutes to do, maybe an hour, depending on which one that you choose. And so that'll be a great use of your time for class credit. You'll get your attendance credit and your class credit by submitting both of those things. So any questions about this? Anybody really struggling with thinking about what to write about? If you want to ask me some questions on your Wednesday post, feel free to reach out and I can respond to you on that. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys next Monday. Okay.